The stars had always been silent until that Tuesday morning in 2157 when everything changed. Commander Jake Morrison was drinking his third cup of coffee aboard the space station New Horizon when the quantum communication array started screaming, with signals nobody had ever heard before. The sound filled the command center like electronic music played by alien instruments. Dr. Lisa Carter ran into the room with her lab coat still buttoned wrong and her hair messy from sleep. She had been the first to detect the patterns in the signal 3 hours earlier. Behind her came Colonel Ryan Hayes, the military strategist who never seemed to sleep and always wore his uniform perfectly pressed, even at 4 in the morning. Jake set down his coffee cup and stared at the main screen where waves of data flowed like a digital waterfall. The computer had been trying to decode the message for hours. Finally, the translation program made sense of the alien language. Words appeared on the screen in plain English that made everyone in the room hold their breath. Greetings to the inhabitants of the third planet in this star system. We are the Zephyrian Collective. We have observed your recent expansion into local space. We wish to establish communication protocols. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm so hard her fingernails dug through his sleeve. This is it. This is really happening. We're not alone. Ryan stepped forward with his hand resting on his weapon. Old habits from too many years of military service made him cautious about everything, even alien first contact. What do they want? The answer came faster than anyone expected. More words scrolled across the screen. We represent a coalition of civilized species in this region of the galaxy. We extend an invitation for preliminary evaluation of your species for possible inclusion in our alliance. Jake felt his heart beating faster. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. Writers had imagined it. Scientists had planned for it. Politicians had made speeches about it. Now it was really happening, and he was the one who had to respond. He walked to the communication console and activated the transmitter. His voice would be the first human voice that aliens would ever hear. This is Commander Jake Morrison, representing Earth and humanity. We accept your invitation to communicate. We are honored by your contact. The response took 23 minutes to arrive. Lisa explained that the delay meant the aliens were probably somewhere near Jupiter's orbit. When their message finally came through, it carried more than just words. The screen filled with an image of the alien ship. The vessel looked nothing, like the crude metal rockets humans use to reach the stars. It seemed to be made of some kind of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. The ship was enormous, easily 10 times larger than New Horizon, and it moved through space without any visible engines or exhaust. Then the aliens themselves appeared on the screen. High Commander Vexhai looked like a tall human covered in silver scales with 4 arms and eyes that glowed like small suns. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with distant thunder. We have reviewed your species' basic information through your communication networks and orbital structures. We find your development level adequate for preliminary discussions. We will dock with your station in 6 of your hours, Lisa whispered to Jake. They hacked our entire internet in 20 minutes. They know everything about us already. The next 6 hours passed like a fever dream. Jake tried to prepare for the most important meeting in human history while Lisa gathered every piece of scientific data she could find about human achievements. Ryan organized security protocols, even though everyone knew human weapons would be useless against technology that could travel between stars. When the alien ship arrived, it made no sound and cast no shadow. It simply appeared next to New Horizon like it had always been there. A bridge of the same crystal material extended from their ship to the human docking port. High Commander Vexhai entered the station with 2 other Zephyrians. They moved like they were floating instead of walking. Their clothes seemed to be made of liquid metal that shifted colors as they moved. Jake noticed they didn't breathe the same air as humans but wore no visible breathing equipment. The meeting took place in the station's main conference room. Jake sat across from the aliens with Lisa and Ryan on either side of him. The Zephyrian commander studied them with those glowing eyes for a long moment before speaking. We have examined your species thoroughly. Your technology is primitive. Your social structures are chaotic. Your planet shows signs of recent warfare and environmental damage. You have no natural psionic abilities and your lifespans are brief. Lisa leaned forward. But we've accomplished so much in such a short time. We've learned to cure diseases that once killed millions. We've built machines that can think. We've reached other worlds. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Your fusion engines are toys compared to our quantum drives. Your computers are barely more advanced than counting stones. Your medical knowledge is elementary. What you call artificial intelligence, we mastered before your species. Discovered fire. Jake felt anger rising in his chest but kept his voice calm. Then why are you here? Why contact us at all? Because even primitive species can be useful. Your planet has resources. Your people could serve as laborers in our industrial systems. We offer you protection and guidance under our protectorate program. You would be safe from other hostile species while you slowly develop under our supervision. Ryan's hand moved toward his weapon, but Jake caught his wrist. Starting a fight with beings who could cross the galaxy would not help humanity. What would this protectorate mean exactly? Jake asked. Your military would be disbanded. Your space exploration would end. Your resources would be managed by our administrators. Your people would be educated in proper galactic protocols. In perhaps 1,000 of your years, you might be ready for limited membership in the collective. The room fell silent except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Jake looked at Lisa and Ryan. He could see the same thought in their eyes. These aliens were not offering friendship or alliance. They were offering slavery with better working conditions. Jake stood up slowly. Thank you for your generous offer, High Commander, but humanity declines. We prefer to develop at our own pace and in our own way. The Zephyrian's glowing eyes grew brighter. You do not understand the dangers of this galaxy. There are species that would destroy you for sport, others that would harvest your planet for raw materials. Our protection is the only thing keeping you alive. Maybe, Jake said, but we'd rather face those dangers as free beings than accept safety as servants. High Commander Vexhai stood and his two companions followed. Your pride will be your destruction. When you realize your mistake, we may no longer be interested in helping you. Consider this carefully, primitive ones. The aliens left as silently as they had arrived. Their crystal ship disappeared into the darkness between stars. Jake, Lisa, and Ryan stood at the observation window watching the empty space where first contact had turned into first rejection. Think we made the right choice? Lisa asked. Jake looked out at the stars that no longer seemed as friendly as they had that morning. Ask me again in a few years. If we're still alive and free, then we'll... No. 3 months after the Zephyrians left, President Helen Brooks stood in the Oval Office staring at reports that made her stomach hurt. Every deep space monitoring station was sending the same message. Ships were moving toward Earth. Lots of ships, from different alien species, and none of them were sending friendly messages. Danny Rodriguez knocked on her office door and entered without waiting for permission. The chief engineer looked like he hadn't slept in weeks, which was probably true. His usually neat appearance was replaced by wrinkled clothes and coffee stains on his shirt. Ma'am, we need to talk, Danny said, dropping a thick folder on her desk. The aliens aren't just ignoring us anymore. They're planning something bad. President Brooks opened the folder and saw photographs taken by long-range telescopes. Massive alien fleets were gathering at the edge of the solar system. Ships that looked like flying cities made of metal and energy. Each one was larger than anything humanity had ever built. How long do we have? She asked. Maybe 6 months before they reach Earth, maybe less if they have faster engines than we think. The president picked up her secure phone and made a call that would change human history. Within hours, every major scientist, engineer, and military leader on Earth and Mars received orders to report to secret facilities. The project had a simple name that carried enormous weight: Renaissance. Dr. Amy Johnson was working late in her quantum physics lab when the call came. She had been studying the alien communication signals, trying to understand how they could send messages across such vast distances so quickly. The math was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Admiral Chris Thompson was pulled out of a planning meeting about new ship designs. For years, he had been arguing that human space vessels needed to be faster and more flexible. Now he finally had the budget and authority to build whatever he could imagine. They all gathered at a facility buried deep under the Colorado mountains. The place had been built during the old Cold War, but now it housed humanity's desperate attempt to survive first contact with a hostile galaxy. President Brooks addressed the assembled group of brilliant minds. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 months to evolve from a planetary species to a galactic power. The aliens think we're primitive and weak. They're coming here to prove it. We're going to prove them wrong." Danny Rodriguez was put in charge of spacecraft development. His first breakthrough came when he realized that human ships didn't need to be built like alien vessels. Instead of trying to copy their massive designs, he created modular systems that could be reconfigured in space for different missions. The new ships looked strange compared to traditional spacecraft. They were made of sections that could separate and reconnect like building blocks. An exploration vessel could transform into a fighter in minutes. A cargo ship could become a medical facility when needed. Dr. Johnson made an even more important discovery while studying alien brain scans that had been intercepted from their communications. She found that the psionic abilities the aliens possessed were not magic or advanced technology. They were simply a different way of using brain functions that all intelligent species possessed. "Every human has the potential for psionic abilities," she explained to the research team. "We just never learned how to access them because we didn't need to. Our brains developed differently because Earth was a more challenging environment than most alien worlds." The first test subject was Lieutenant Kate Sullivan, a young officer who had volunteered for experimental procedures. The process was dangerous and painful, involving neural implants and months of training to rewire how her brain processed information. When Kate first demonstrated her new abilities by moving objects with her thoughts and communicating without speaking, everyone in the GER lab stopped breathing for a moment. Humanity had just gained its first artificial psionic soldier. Captain Alex Morgan was selected to command the first of the new modular ships. His vessel was called Freedom's Edge, and it looked nothing like the sleek military ships shown in old movies. It was angular and practical, covered in sensors and weapons that could be swapped out depending on the mission. Alex spent weeks learning how to fly a ship that could change its entire configuration while in combat. His crew had to master systems that could transform from exploration equipment to battle stations in seconds. It was like learning to pilot 10 different ships at the same time. Meanwhile, intelligence reports kept coming in from the monitoring stations. The alien fleets were not just from one species. 3 different civilizations were working together to eliminate humanity. The Zephyrians had convinced the warlike Korath Empire and the hive-minded Nexus Swarm to join them. Each alien species had different strengths. The Zephyrians possessed superior technology and energy weapons. The Korath used overwhelming firepower and heavily armored ships. The Nexus Swarm attacked in perfect coordination with thousands of small vessels acting as one mind. Human strategists studied every piece of intercepted alien communication they could find. They learned that all 3 species followed predictable battle patterns based on their natural advantages. The aliens had been winning fights the same way for thousands of years. Colonel Ryan Hayes worked with Dr. Johnson to develop new tactical approaches that would confuse alien expectations. Instead of meeting force with force, humans would use speed and unpredictability. Instead of fighting fair, they would change the rules of engagement constantly. The breakthrough came when pilot Jenny Martinez was testing one of the new fighters. She was supposed to follow a specific flight pattern during the exercise, but her natural instincts made her improvise. She dodged attacks by making choices that didn't make logical sense. The computer systems designed to predict her movements couldn't keep up with her random decisions. Jenny was flying by feel and emotion rather than calculated strategy. When the test was over, the targeting computers had missed her 80% of the time. Dr. Johnson realized what this meant. Human intuition and emotional decision-making might be our greatest weapon. Alien computers are designed to predict logical behavior. We don't always act logically. Training programs were redesigned to encourage human creativity and spontaneous thinking rather than rigid military discipline. Pilots were taught to trust their instincts. Soldiers were trained to adapt and improvise rather than follow orders exactly. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan began training other volunteers in psionic enhancement procedures. The process was still dangerous, and not everyone survived it. But those who did gained abilities that rivaled natural alien talents. More importantly, they could combine human creativity with alien-level mental powers. As the months passed, humanity transformed from a peaceful, space-exploring species into something the galaxy had never seen before. They were not trying to become like the aliens. They were becoming something entirely new. President Brooks visited the secret facilities to see the progress firsthand. She watched human pilots flying ships that could reshape themselves in flight. She saw soldiers moving objects with their minds while still thinking like humans instead of aliens. She witnessed engineers building weapons that were powered by human imagination rather than just technology. "Are we ready?" she asked Admiral Thompson as they stood watching a squadron of the new fighters practicing aerial maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. The Admiral looked at the reports from the monitoring stations. The alien fleets were only weeks away from Earth. 3 species with thousands of years of military experience were coming to crush a civilization they considered barely more advanced than animals. "We're ready to find out," he said. "The aliens think they know what humans are capable of. They're about to learn that they've never met anyone quite like us." In the deep space beyond Mars, the first alien scouts were already probing human defenses. They found orbital stations and patrol ships that looked primitive compared to their own technology. The reports they sent back to their fleets confirmed what they already believed. Humanity would fall within days of the first attack. The primitive species had learned nothing from their meeting with the Zephyrians. They were still using crude fusion engines and simple metal ships. The conquest would be easier than expected, but deep in the hidden facilities on Earth, humans were making final preparations for a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were about to prove that being underestimated was the most dangerous mistake their enemies could make. The alien fleets arrived on a quiet Sunday morning when most of Earth was still sleeping. 3 massive armadas dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system like metallic thunderclouds gathering for a storm. Captain Alex Morgan was awake on the bridge of Freedom's Edge when the sensors started screaming warnings. The Zephyrian fleet appeared first, their crystal ships gleaming like captured starlight. High Commander Vexhi's flagship was a kilometer long and pulsed with energy that made human instruments go crazy just trying to measure it. Behind them came the Korath Empire battle groups, their vessels looking like flying fortresses covered in armor and weapons. Last came the Nexus swarm, and they were the most terrifying of all. Thousands of small ships moved in perfect formation like a school of metal fish. Each individual vessel was no larger than a human fighter, but together they formed patterns that hurt to look at directly. Alex opened communication channels to Admiral Chris Thompson's command center on Earth. "Sir, we have visual confirmation. On all 3 fleets, they're bigger than our worst estimates." The Admiral's voice was calm despite the situation. "All units, this is Admiral Thompson. Operation Underdog is now active. Remember, they think they know what we can do. Let's show them how wrong they are." The first alien message was broadcast across all human frequencies. High Commander Vexhi appeared on screens throughout the solar system, his glowing eyes filled with what looked like disappointment rather than anger. "People of Earth, you have had months to reconsider our generous offer. Instead, you have built more primitive weapons and prepared for a battle you cannot win. We will now demonstrate the futility of resistance. Surrender immediately and you will be treated with mercy." President Helen Brooks responded from the White House lawn with cameras from around the world recording her words. "High Commander Vexhi and all alien forces, humanity's answer remains the same. We will not surrender our freedom. We will not bow to superior force. If you want our world, you'll have to take it." The battle began 30 minutes later when the Korath Empire launched the first attack. Their massive battleships fired energy weapons that could destroy cities in a single shot. The beams struck the outer defense stations that humans had built around Mars' orbit. The stations exploded in brilliant flashes of light and debris. The aliens watched their sensors confirm the destruction of human defensive positions. Everything was going exactly as they had planned. The primitive species had tried to fight with technology they barely understood. But then something unexpected happened. The debris from the destroyed stations began moving in ways that debris shouldn't move. Pieces of twisted metal suddenly extended solar panels and activated engines. What the aliens had thought were destroyed defense platforms were actually camouflaged. Human fighters. Captain Morgan's voice came across the communication channel. Phoenix Squadron, you are clear to engage. Show them what human ingenuity looks like. The hidden fighters swarmed toward the Korath battleships like angry insects. Each small human vessel could transform its configuration in seconds, changing from a piece of space junk into a high-speed interceptor. The alien targeting systems had been programmed to ignore debris, so they couldn't lock onto the human ships until it was too late. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan led the first boarding party assault. Her team used their artificial psionic abilities to shut down sections of a Korath ship's neural network, while traditional Marines planted explosive charges throughout the vessel. The aliens found their own ship turning against them as human-controlled systems locked down their escape routes. DC, Korath had never encountered an enemy that could fight them from inside their own vessels. Their thick armor was useless when the attack came from within. 3 of their largest battleships were crippled before they understood what was happening. High Commander Vex High ordered his crystal ships to attack the human deception with their quantum disruption weapons. The energy beams that emerged from the Zephyrian vessels could tear apart matter at the atomic level. Nothing in the galaxy had ever survived a direct hit from Zephyrian quantum weapons. The beams struck Captain Morgan's ship just as it was transforming from exploration mode into battle configuration. The Freedom's Edge should have been completely destroyed. Instead, the modular sections separated and reformed around the energy beam, using the alien weapon's own power to charge human defensive systems. Impossible, High Commander Vex High said to his tactical officer. No known technology can redirect quantum disruption energy. His tactical officer studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. Sir, the humans are not using known technology. Their ships appear to be adapting to our weapons in real time. Meanwhile, the Nexus swarm had been watching the battle and calculating the best approach to destroy the remaining human forces. Their thousands of small ships began forming attack patterns that had crushed civilizations across the galaxy. Each vessel moved in perfect coordination with all the others, creating formations that could overwhelm any defense. That's when pilot Jenny Martinez proved that human intuition was more powerful than alien calculations. Flying a fighter that could reconfigure itself faster than thought, she began making attack runs that followed no logical pattern. She would dive toward a target, then suddenly change direction for no tactical reason. She would fire at empty space, then spin around to attack from an impossible angle. The Nexus swarm's collective intelligence tried to predict her movements and failed completely. Their perfectly coordinated formation began to break apart as individual ships tried to track a target that made decisions based on instinct rather than strategy. Jenny's random attack pattern created chaos in their collective consciousness. Other human pilots saw what Jenny was doing and began copying her approach. Soon the entire human fighter wing was flying like they were dancing rather than fighting. The aliens had never encountered military tactics based on creativity and emotional responses instead of logical planning. Dr. Amy Johnson was monitoring the battle from her research station when she made another crucial discovery. The alien psionic networks that coordinated their fleets were vulnerable to human emotional interference. The artificial psionics that Kate Sullivan and her team used were powered by human feelings rather than alien logic. All psionic units. This is Dr. Johnson, she broadcast across the human forces. Focus your emotions into your abilities. Use anger, fear, hope, everything you feel. The aliens can't understand or defend against human emotional responses. The tide of battle began to change as human forces stopped trying to fight like aliens and started fighting like humans. Every advantage the enemy possessed was turned against them by opponents who refused to follow the established rules of galactic warfare. Captain Morgan's ship appeared in the middle of the Zephyrian formation after using a maneuver that should have been impossible. The Freedom's Edge had somehow folded space around itself using technology that combined human engineering with captured alien components in ways that neither species had ever imagined. The battle lasted 18 hours and ended when High Commander Vex High's flagship was surrounded by a dozen human vessels that had adapted themselves to match the crystal ship's energy frequency. The aliens found themselves trapped inside their own defensive systems, unable to escape without destroying themselves. This is Captain Morgan to all alien forces. You have 30 minutes to leave our solar system. Any ships remaining after that time will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. The 3 alien fleets retreated beyond the orbit of Pluto and established a temporary communication link with Earth. High Commander Vex High appeared on human screens looking confused and perhaps slightly impressed. Your species possesses unexpected capabilities, he admitted. This was merely a probing force to test your defenses. The true test lies ahead. Other species throughout the galaxy are now aware of your existence and your unusual approach to warfare. Admiral Thompson responded from Earth Command. Let them come. We've learned something important today. Being called primitive isn't an insult when you use it to surprise your enemies. The alien fleets departed for their home systems, but their message to the galactic community was clear. Humanity was not the easy conquest they had expected. The primitive species had weapons and tactics that could challenge even the most advanced civilizations. On Earth, President Brooks addressed the world with news of humanity's first victory in galactic warfare. Today, we proved that advancement isn't just about technology. It's about the willingness to adapt, to learn, and to never give up. The aliens called us primitive, and maybe we are by their standards. But we're the kind of primitive that builds tools they never imagined and fights battles they never planned for. Captain Morgan and his crew were already preparing for the next challenge. Intelligence reports suggested that humanity's victory had attracted attention from species far more dangerous than the Zephyrians, Korath, or Nexus Swarm. The galaxy was beginning to take notice of the upstart civilization that refused to know its place. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan was training more volunteers in artificial psionic techniques, while Dr. Johnson worked on understanding the alien technology they had captured during the battle. 6 months after humanity's victory over the 3 alien fleets, the galaxy was buzzing with stories about the primitive species that fought like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Ambassador Paul Richards received the first diplomatic message from an unexpected source while he was reviewing intelligence reports in his office at the United Nations building. The Altaran Federation was older than human civilization by tens of thousands of years. They had watched empires rise and fall across the galaxy while maintaining their peaceful coalition of advanced species. Their message was polite and cautious, inviting humanity to send representatives for preliminary discussions about galactic politics. Dr. Lisa Carter was selected to accompany Ambassador Richards along with Dr. Nina Brooks, a cultural analyst, who had spent months studying intercepted alien communications. The 3 humans traveled aboard a modified version of Captain Morgan's ship design, one that could reconfigure itself to appear more diplomatic and less military. The journey to the Altaran homeworld took 2 weeks using humanity's improved faster-than-light engines. Dr. Johnson had reverse-engineered alien technology and combined it with human innovation to create something neither species had possessed alone. The result was a drive system that was both more efficient and more unpredictable than anything in the galactic database. Meanwhile, back in Earth's solar system, Admiral Thompson was dealing with a more serious problem. Intelligence reports indicated that the Korath Empire's defeat had not discouraged other hostile species. Instead, it had inspired them to form the largest military alliance in galactic history. The Dominion Alliance included 6 different alien civilizations, each one bringing their unique strengths to create an overwhelming force. They had studied the battle recordings from humanity's first victory and believed they understood how to counter human tactics. General Marcus Stone was put in charge of developing humanity's first offensive military capabilities. Working with Danny Rodriguez, they began construction of the most ambitious project in human history. The Prometheus Initiative would create starships that could adapt not just their configuration, but their entire structure based on battlefield conditions. The new vessels looked like nothing that had ever flown among the stars. They appeared to be made of liquid metal that flowed and reformed constantly. Weapons, engines, and defensive systems could emerge from any part of the ship's surface. The vessels could split into multiple smaller craft or combine with others to form massive battle platforms. Ambassador Richards and his team arrived at the Altaran homeworld to find a society built on principles that humans could barely understand. The planet's cities floated in the atmosphere, connected by bridges of crystallized energy. Every structure was designed to last for millions of years and required no maintenance or power sources. The Altaran Council received the human delegation in a chamber that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ambassador Richards felt dizzy trying to focus on alien representatives who seemed to phase in and out of normal reality. Dr. Brooks frantically took notes on cultural practices that appeared to violate the laws of physics. High Counselor Ethran was the oldest living being the humans had ever encountered. Her species had evolved beyond the need for physical bodies and existed as patterns of organized energy that could take any form they chose. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Welcome, young species. Your recent actions have created considerable discussion throughout the galactic community. We understand you wish to be recognized as equals rather than subjects. Ambassador Richards tried to maintain his diplomatic composure while speaking to a being that looked like a living constellation. That's correct, High Counselor. Humanity seeks peaceful relations with all civilized species, but we will not accept subjugation. The Altaran Council explained how galactic society had functioned for millennia. Older, more advanced species naturally guided younger ones through the complexities of interstellar politics. New civilizations were expected to serve and learn before gradually earning limited independence over thousands of years. Dr. Carter leaned forward in her chair. But what if the younger species has capabilities that even older civilizations lack? What if they can contribute immediately, rather than spending centuries as servants? High Counselor Etheron's energy pattern shifted into what might have been surprise. An interesting perspective. What capabilities do you believe your species possesses that established civilizations lack? Dr. Brooks consulted her notes and chose her words carefully. Adaptability. Every species we've encountered follows predictable patterns based on their evolutionary history. Humans seem to be capable of changing their approach to any situation in ways that surprise even themselves. The council spent hours questioning the human delegates about their species' history, technology, and social structures. The aliens were particularly interested in humanity's tendency to create new solutions rather than improve existing ones. Most galactic civilizations had perfected specific approaches to problems and had been using the same methods for thousands of years. While the diplomatic talks continued, the Dominion Alliance was making final preparations for their assault on humanity. Their combined fleet included over 1,000 ships representing the most advanced military technology from 6 different species. Each alien civilization contributed their most effective weapons and strategies. The Vorthak hegemony brought ships that could become invisible to all known detection methods. The crystalline hierarchy contributed vessels that existed partially outside normal spacetime. The Hive Mind Confederacy added swarm tactics that had never been defeated. 3 other species provided technologies that humans had never encountered. Before Lieutenant Colonel Susan Perry had been working with Dr. Johnson to develop humanity's next breakthrough in psionic communication systems. The new network would allow human forces to coordinate their actions across vast distances while maintaining the emotional flexibility that gave them advantages over alien logic-based systems. The test came when the Dominion Alliance launched their surprise attack 3 days earlier than intelligence reports had predicted. Their invisible ships appeared throughout the solar system simultaneously, striking at Earth, Mars, and the outer defensive stations all at the same time. General Stone activated the Prometheus fleet from their hidden positions in the asteroid belt. The new human vessels emerged from camouflaged bases and began their transformation sequences. What had appeared to be large asteroids suddenly unfolded into warships that defied every known principle of naval architecture. Captain Morgan commanded the flagship Defiance, a vessel that could reconfigure itself into 17 different combat configurations. His crew had trained for months to operate systems that changed their function based on tactical requirements. Every battle station could become any other battle station within seconds. The aliens had prepared for humanity's adaptive technology and unpredictable tactics, but they had not anticipated the scale of human innovation. The Prometheus vessels didn't just adapt to alien weapons, they incorporated captured alien technology into their own systems and used it in ways the original designers had never imagined. Jenny Martinez, now promoted to squadron leader, led a formation of fighters that could combine with each other to form larger vessels or separate into individual units, smaller than most alien sensors could track. Her pilots flew in patterns that seemed random, but followed mathematical principles that Dr. Johnson had discovered in human brain activity during moments of extreme creativity. The battle for Earth lasted 3 days and nights. The Dominion Alliance threw everything they had at the human defenders, using weapons that could destroy planets and tactics that had conquered dozens of star systems. For the first time in galactic history, an alliance of advanced species was being fought to a standstill by a single younger civilization. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan led boarding operations against alien vessels that existed in multiple dimensions. Her enhanced psionic abilities allowed her to function in spaces that normal humans couldn't even perceive. Her team captured technology that would advance human science by centuries while disrupting enemy operations from within their own ships. The turning point came when the human fleet demonstrated their most revolutionary capability. Instead of fighting 6 different alien species separately, they began adapting to all of them simultaneously. The Prometheus vessels incorporated Vorthak stealth technology, crystalline dimensional shifting, hive mind coordination protocols, and technologies from the other 3 species all at the same time. Admiral Thompson coordinated the final assault from Earth Command, directing human forces that had become something unprecedented in galactic history. They were no longer trying to copy alien technology or match alien capabilities. They had become a hybrid of every advanced species they had encountered, but with human creativity as the organizing principle. The Dominion Alliance retreated after losing over 300 ships to a human fleet that had started the battle, with fewer than 50 vessels. Their final transmission was a formal acknowledgement that humanity had earned the right to be treated as equals in galactic affairs. The Alderaan Council's decision sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy that were still being felt months later. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a species barely 2 years into interstellar contact had been granted full membership in the Galactic Council without serving the traditional period of guided development. High Counselor Etheron had announced the decision in a voice that carried across dimensions, reaching every advanced civilization simultaneously. The species known as humanity has demonstrated capabilities that transcend conventional measurements of advancement. They have earned recognition as equals through actions that exceed the achievements of civilizations thousands of years older. Ambassador Paul Richards stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall addressing representatives from every nation on Earth. The hall had been modified to accommodate alien delegates who were attending their first meeting on the human homeworld. The sight of crystalline beings sitting next to energy patterns sitting next to creatures that looked like living metal was something no human had imagined possible just 3 years earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, beings of all forms and natures, Ambassador Richards began, today marks the beginning of humanity's role not as students of galactic civilization, but as contributors to its continued evolution. Dr. Amy Johnson had spent the past months making discoveries that revolutionized galactic understanding of intelligence and potential. Her research facilities were now joint operations with alien scientists who had come to study the human brain's unique approach to problem-solving and adaptation. What we've learned, Dr. Johnson explained to the assembled researchers, is that Earth's unusually chaotic environment produced a type of intelligence that combines logical analysis with emotional creativity in ways that no other known species developed naturally. The implications were staggering. Every alien civilization had evolved on worlds with relatively stable conditions, leading to mental development that favored either pure logic or pure intuition, but never both simultaneously. Humans were the first species discovered that could use analytical thinking and emotional responses as integrated parts of the same cognitive process. Captain Alex Morgan, now promoted to Admiral, led the newly established Human Exploration Corps, aboard vessels that represented the next stage of technological evolution. His flagship, the Pathfinder, was built using combined human and alien technology, but designed according to principles that neither species could have developed alone. The ship could reconfigure itself not just physically, but conceptually, adapting its mission parameters and capabilities based on whatever challenges it encountered. It was exploration vessel, research station, diplomatic platform, and defensive system all at the same time, changing its primary function based on what the situation required. Admiral Morgan's first deep space mission took the Pathfinder beyond the borders of known galactic civilization. The crew included humans, Alterans, reformed Zephyrians, and representatives from a dozen other species who wanted to participate in humanity's unique approach to exploration. They discovered 17 new star systems in their first 6-month mission, including 3 that contained intelligent life forms that had never been contacted by any galactic civilization. More importantly, they developed new protocols for first contact that emphasized mutual respect and curiosity, rather than evaluation and classification. Meanwhile, back in Earth's solar system, an unexpected visitor requested permission to dock with the New Horizons space station. High Commander Vexhai arrived alone in a small Zephyrian vessel, without the crystal ships and formal delegations that had marked his previous visits. Commander Jake Morrison, still serving as the station's director, met the alien leader in the same conference room where humanity had first rejected the offer of protectorate status. But this time, Vexhai came not as a superior offering guidance to primitives, but as a representative seeking partnership with equals. Commander Morrison, Vexhai said, his glowing eyes showing what humans had learned to recognize as respect. The Zephyrian Collective formally apologizes for our initial assessment of your species. We request permission to establish technological and cultural exchange programs. Jake smiled, remembering how frightened and angry he had felt during their first meeting. Now he felt something entirely different, curiosity about what they might accomplish together. High Commander, humanity accepts your apology and welcomes the opportunity to work with the Zephyrian Collective as partners. The exchange programs that followed transformed both species in ways neither had anticipated. Zephyrian quantum technology, combined with human adaptive engineering, produced starships that could travel distances previously thought impossible. Human emotional psionic techniques integrated with Zephyrian mental disciplines created new forms of consciousness that transcended the limitations of both approaches. President Helen Brooks found herself addressing not just the people of Earth, but the entire Galactic Council through quantum communication networks that reached across the galaxy instantaneously. Her speech was broadcast to trillions of intelligent beings, representing hundreds of different species. 3 years ago, we were called primitive by those who judged us by their own standards, President Brooks said. Today, we stand as partners with civilizations that are older than our entire recorded history. We have learned that advancement is not about age or tradition. It is about the willingness to grow, to adapt, and to never accept that any challenge is impossible to overcome. The speech was followed by the formal signing of the Galactic Cooperation Accords, documents that restructured interstellar relations for the first time in millennia. The old system of senior civilizations guiding junior ones was replaced by partnerships based on complementary capabilities rather than hierarchical age. Dr. Nina Brooks established the Galactic Cultural Institute on Earth, where representatives from across the galaxy came to study human approaches to creativity, adaptation, and problem-solving. The institute became the first educational facility in galactic history, where older civilizations sent their people to learn from a younger species. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan, now Colonel Sullivan, commanded the Galactic Academy's new Strategic Innovation Division. Human and alien cadets worked together on projects that combined the best aspects of multiple civilizations' knowledge and capabilities. The Academy's first graduating class included beings who could think like humans while possessing the technological knowledge of species that had been traveling among the stars for millions of years. They represented a new generation that would explore galaxies beyond their own and face challenges that no single species could handle alone. Jenny Martinez, promoted to General Martinez, led the Academy's flight training programs where alien pilots learned to fly by instinct and emotion rather than pure calculation. Her students included crystalline beings who had never experienced intuitive decision-making, and energy creatures who had never understood how physical emotions could enhance, rather than interfere with logical thinking. The most surprising development came when human exploration teams began discovering ancient ruins in distant star systems. The archaeological evidence suggested that millions of years ago, other species had achieved the same kind of integrated intelligence that humans possessed naturally, but had somehow lost those capabilities over time. Dr. Johnson's research teams, now including scientists from dozens of different civilizations, theorized that the stability of most worlds eventually led to specialized rather than integrated intelligence. Earth's chaotic environment had preserved cognitive abilities that other species had evolved away from, as they adapted to more predictable conditions. This discovery led to the establishment of the Cognitive Diversity Initiative, a galaxy-wide program dedicated to rediscovering and preserving different types of intelligence, rather than assuming that older necessarily meant better. Admiral Chris Thompson, now serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Defense Coordination Council, oversaw the integration of human tactical innovations into galactic military doctrine. The old approaches based on overwhelming force or superior technology were supplemented with strategies based on adaptability and creative problem-solving. The galaxy had not become peaceful. There were still hostile civilizations beyond the borders of known space and challenges that required military responses. But the nature of those responses had changed. Instead of each species fighting according to their traditional patterns, galactic forces now combined multiple approaches in ways that confused and overwhelmed their enemies. The transformation was so complete that within 5 years of first contact, human innovations had become essential to galactic civilization. Exploration ships used human adaptive technology. Research facilities employed human creative methodology. Diplomatic missions incorporated human emotional intelligence techniques. But perhaps the most important change was philosophical rather than technological. The galaxy had learned that being new did not mean being inferior, and that different did not mean wrong. Civilizations that had followed the same patterns for millions of years began experimenting with alternative approaches to ancient problems.